This week, the HBT is back in Sin City at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. Whenever the HBT comes to town, the stars come out. David Williams, David Baker, Brian Devonshire, and many more top pros along with past HBT champions sat down on day one ready to grind. 2 long days and hundreds of hands later, our TV final table is set with budding young pros looking to score on a national stage and talented amateurs hoping to humble the young pros and show they have the game to compete as well. The final 6 players are ready to battle to the last man standing. This is the HPT.
They come from all walks of life, each with a story to tell. All they need is a chip and a chair. It's an open casting call for those who love the game. This ain't your weekend home game. This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome to the HPT back in Las Vegas. We are at the Palms Casino Resort. I'm Chris Hansen, and by my side is a man who actually drank a bar out of alcohol twice this week. He's Fred Bevel.
You know, you'd think they'd give a guy a t-shirt for that. Instead, just a lot of finger pointing. Vegas is a place where anything goes and everyone can let loose. It's also the place where the game's best call home.
The field this week consisted of the who's who of poker. The Vegas pros sat down with past HPT champions and other familiar friends of the tour with one goal: taking down a talented field in the city that made poker famous. There is something special about winning in Vegas, Fred.
Indeed. You're playing against a uniquely strong field, and you have to play under physically debilitating factors like hangovers, lack of sleep, trying to retrace your steps from the night before so you can figure out whose monkey you stole, and trying to get the cop car back to the station before the cop wakes up.
You know, I gotta hand it to you. Nobody does Vegas like Fred Bevel. Congratulations, sir. Fred, we've got $100,000 on the line at this final table. Let's meet some of the players and then get right to the action.
I'm Randy Oel. I live here in Las Vegas, and I play poker for a living. My strategy is to play my best and be the luckiest.
Daniel Allspaw. I'm retired executive. I buy and sell real estate in Las Vegas now for fun. I'm about to sit down at this final table with these people. I didn't see anybody that terrified me, and I'm looking forward to beating them.
James Carroll, and I play poker. Have a pretty bad seat, but I still like my chances.
If I win this $104K, I put the money in the bank.
I don't have that special of a story to tell with how I made it here. I pretty much had chips the whole way and got lucky a couple of times, and here I am.
I've played with Trevor a lot. I've played with Dan a decent amount, so I have some pretty decent reads on him.
We'll meet the rest of the players at this final table a little bit later, but Fred, this is what they are all hoping to meet at the end of the night. It's $104,000 in cash.
And everybody at this final table guaranteed to go home with a little over 20 grand for their impressive run here in Las Vegas at the Palms. Here's the updated chip count.
And this is the kind of dynamic at a final table where you could have some pretty darn good play. You have 4 really big stacks that all have around 20 big blinds in their stack. Even the short stacks, Fred, they can't be considered short. This thing's still way up in the air here at the Palms.
Wide open. Blind starting off at this final table at 12 and 24,000 with a 3,000 chip ante. First to act in this hand is Dan Allspaw, wearing the coolest visor ever.
I don't think I've ever seen a visor like that at our final table.
And you never will again.
Wait,
It's
not
awesome.
even just at the final table. I think in life.
Raise.
Action is now on Michael Ryan. And Michael is going to raise it up to $220,000 with his pocket queens. Over to Vic.
Good hand to wake up to at the final table. Vic Gupta peels back deuce 6. That goes into the muck. Over to the 1 seat. This is Randy Owell.
In the big blind, Randy is going to fold. And now back to Dan with king 10 of diamonds.
139,000 for Dan to see a flop. He says, why not? Makes the call.
Dan started this final table with 1.5 million chips. Here comes the first flop of the night at 7-7-8. Queens are way ahead.
Dan is going to check over to Michael. Michael with the wired queens. Probably going to fire out on the flop here. Under occupation, Michael wrote fundraising. He's a big philanthropist, likes to raise money for all sorts of good causes. One of his favorites is for our disabled American veterans.
Dan folds to the bet from Michael, and so he is going to win our very first hand here at the final table. When you said fundraising, I thought you meant like he likes to win poker tournaments and raise funds for himself, because that's what I like to do.
Action in this hand starts with James Carroll. He's going to fold.
Over to Trevor, a professional player from right here in Las Vegas.
Trevor folds, and back to Mike.
Mike still hasn't even stacked up the chips from before.
Mike peels back queen deuce and quickly folds.
Now he'll have time to stack them up. Over to Vic Gupta, 38-year-old from San Francisco, California.
Vic is a big math guy. Loves to play it by the numbers. He's got Jack 8 of hearts in this hand. And he is going to raise it up from the button here.
Vic playing his very first HBT event here at the Palms in Las Vegas.
Randy's going to fold.
And now to Dan in the big blind. Dan will call with ace-10.
Oh, there go my hand now.
And here's the flop, 10, deuce, jack. Both players get a little piece of this.
And Vic has got the best piece with top pair. In the 8 kicker, Dan's picked up the 10.
Dan bets 50,000. Action to Vic. Vic calls. And the turn is a 6, and so action back on Dan.
Vic still ahead in this hand.
Still ace-10.
And second pair top kicker. He figures I'll fire a second bullet. Makes this one 50,000.
And Vic makes the call.
And Vic gone into pot control mode here, just in case his kicker's not good.
And the river is a king.
And that'll probably slow down both these players.
Yep, Dan checks, Vic checks behind. And Vic's Jack 8 is going to scoop this pot. Plenty more action from Sin City at Palms Casino Resort. More poker next on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. Let's get to know the rest of the players at our final table tonight.
My name is Trevor Pope. I am 25 years old. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I play poker. Anytime you go to a final table, there's always money on the line, so that's good. And hopefully I can run good and win all the money. I think it's anybody's game, just because a lot of luck is involved in tournaments where people don't have many big blinds, and right now a few of us are in that position.
Mike Ryan, Abbottstown, Pennsylvania, and I raise money for veterans with disabilities. I want to make sure that I play the cards I'm dealt and don't overplay my hands, and take my time and see how deep I can make it today. I'm definitely running hot, but I'm not going to take that for granted. If I make it, to the top prize today, I'll donate 5% of my earnings to Las Vegas disabled American veterans. So that means a lot to me. So I want to get that top prize.
Hi, I'm Vic. I am a serial entrepreneur. So the tournament scene is new to me, and I've been trying to get into this tournament for the last year or so. I feel very comfortable. I mean, I think I kind of have a read on their lines and their personalities, so I feel very comfortable. Well, if I had to do an optimist simulation with the chip stacks, I think the computer will tell you that I will end up in third.
Here's our updated chip count. Michael, your chip leader at this final table. But again, Fred, plenty of chips in play, over 7 million of them in play, and there's nobody here that's under 10% of the chips in play. Still plenty of big blinds. Let's get back to playing some poker.
Blinds continue at 12 and 24,000 with a 3,000 chip ante. And you're right, the shortest stack still has over 30 big blinds in it. Plenty of room to play here. 9-10 offsuit is the holding for Trevor Pope. That goes into the muck.
Over to our brand new chip leader, Michael. between 3. We'll be going to the muck, and now to Vic. Vic will fold. Quickly moving over to Randy.
Randy on the button with wired kings here.
Randy, a pro player, puts food on the table thanks to his poker winnings. Lives here in Las Vegas. He's 21 years old.
He's going to make it $50,000 to go with the wired kings, and actually moves over to Dan with Jack 8 of hearts. He's going to call from the small blind.
Do we want to tell Dan that he doesn't have to play every hand?
He has played every single hand so far at this final table. Hey, you can't win if you don't see flops, right?
Absolutely. We're now over to James Carroll in the big blind.
James, also a professional poker player. Boy, professional poker players are like actors in L.A. They're just everywhere.
Yep. Well, he will not see a flop, and so we're heads up here between Dan and Randy. And here's the flop. It's 7, ace, 9 with 3 clubs.
Normally, when an ace hits on a flop with kings, you hate it. But when it's all clubs and you pick up the second nut flush draw, you don't mind it so much. Randy's going to bet. Dan quickly folds, and it's 200,000 fresh chips going into Randy's stack. As we continue on here at 12 and 24,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
Action's going to be on Vic.
Involved in this thing.
Vic's 38 years old, originally from India, now lives in San Francisco, and he's got aces.
It's a horrible hand.
Sit back and watch the magic happen with pocket aces.
Aces under the gun, raises it to 51,000.
Now let's see if he can find any fish in the water after he's put the hook in.
Randy folds, Dan folds, James lays it down. Now we're on to Trevor.
Trevor's got 10-3 of clubs in the small blind.
And poor Vic, he raises it with aces under the gun and no action so far. And I don't think he's going to get any here from Mike.
Although Mike is the chip leader, he's already in the big blind for 24,000. Got to figure all the rest of the hands at this table were absolutely terrible. They all folded, so let's give this a try and see a flop.
Well, 8-4 is going to see a flop.
As you can tell by my commentary there, I'm a terrible poker player. I lose a lot of money because things like this happen. Flop is King, Jack, 8. Michael does pairs 8.
Vic way ahead with the wired aces.
Michael checks. So, that's usually where I'm firing the bet, and then I get raised, and I have to fold, and there goes more money. But Vic checks. Here comes the turn, and that's why you play 8-4 in the big blind.
Unlucky turn card for Vic here. He's trying to trap Michael into making a play, and unfortunately he's turned 2 pair. And Michael's going to bet it, makes it 83,000 to go.
Action's back to Vic.
You see this all the time in poker. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. You pick up aces and you try to play a big pot with it.
Question is, how do you get to that big pot? Do you get to that big pot by betting? Do you let the other guy bet? Well, Vic is going to raise it up to 166,000, back to Michael. And this is where I bet you the chip leader is going to spring into action. I would try to shut this hand down right here.
Let's see if Mike takes your advice.
Call.
And Michael's going to flat call.
An ace, a king, or a jack on the river will pull Vic out of this.
But right now he's in a bad spot as this pot has reached almost $500,000 in chips. The river is a 6. Michael's first act.
And no reason for Mike to slow down. He is staging the chips.
Anything under 350,000 here is probably going to get paid by aces.
And Mike is going to fire 225. That's a good size bet in my opinion. This is going to be tough for Vic to get away from.
And this is what it looks like when you have a feeling like you just messed up playing aces. Take a look at Vic. We've all been there.
Well, that's where Michael's bet size is just pretty much perfect. He can't fold. And Michael's going to roll over the 2 pair, and Vic's going to see he got unlucky on the turn. And yeah, you just got to kind of roll with it there, my friend, and lick your wounds, come back for another hand.
It's that situation where you say, yep, great, I let him get there. If I bet the flop, he probably folds. Game over. But instead, Vic loses a big pot that was almost $1 million in chips.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chris, that's usually how it works out. When the pot grows to that size on the river and all you have is one pair, even though it's aces, it's probably a loser.
Beautiful new poker room here at the Palms. Next time you're in Las Vegas, I highly suggest you come and check it out. Love the sports book here as well. I love Nine Steakhouse. I love the pool. I love everything.
The
toilet paper, the carpet, everything here at the Palms is top notch.
Definitely a fun place to spend your time when you're in Vegas. It's wired threes now for Dan, and he's going to raise it, makes it $80,000 to go.
Over to James with ace queen.
Ace queen, Doyle Brunson's least favorite hand. Says he's lost more money with ace queen than any other holding in the game. Over to Trevor with connector cards. Well, he's playing really tight today. And now back to Mike in the 5 seat.
Mike's chip lead got a lot bigger when he turned that 2 pair just a moment ago. Now he looks down at ace-5 of diamonds on the button.
And he is going to fold it. Vic folds. Probably still recouping from those aces cracked.
And now king-jack for Randy in the big blind.
No reason for Randy not to see a flop here. Except for whatever reason he had in his head. He's a much better player than I am. I'll just assume he's right.
And here comes the flop. It is 9 ace deuce.
Well, James has outflopped Dan. He's paired the ace. And both players check to the turn.
And the turn is a 6. Dan's first act, and he checks with his pocket 3s. James probably done checking now that there's 2 hearts and 2 clubs on the board.
That and the original raiser has now checked the flop and the turn. Anybody would bet in this spot, I think. And sure enough, Dan is going to lay it down.
More poker when we come back to Las Vegas, Nevada from the Palms Casino Resort on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. This week in Las Vegas. Do you know that it's in Clark County? I found that out last night the hard way. Michael is our chip leader with 2.2 million chips in his stack.
Trevor is the short stack, but still with 30 big blinds in his stack, no one is panicking at this final table right now. This is still wide open. Blinds are still at 12 and 24,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
How long are we staying in Vegas this time around, Fred?
I think it'll be 6 days by the time we pack up the tent and go home.
Got a court date in 9, so. All right, Michael's first act, the chip leader takes a look at his hand. It's 3-10 of hearts. He folds. Vic folds. Over to Randy. Randy originally from Coral Springs, Florida, now living here in Las Vegas. He gets out of the way. Over to Dan, who looks like he could live in Coral Springs, Florida.
Dan is just going to call from the button here.
I feel like a 9-2-3 flop for that now.
And now to James.
You have balls.
James will complete the blind with connecting cards. And that's Trevor Pope in the big.
Trevor looks down at ace-7 of hearts.
And Trevor decides to check his option.
You have to min-raise to punish him.
Yeah, I should.
really scared.
What would have called a min-raise?
All right, so let's take a look at the flop. We've got 3 players. The button and the blinds are in the action. Here we go. Flop is Queen, 5, King.
Well, James has the best hand right now with a pair of 5s, but he can't really like that pair. He's going to bet it out anyway, 35,000 to see where he's at.
Now to Trevor in the big blind.
Trevor holding just ace high. He's going to lay it down, and Dan was 6-4. He's not going to play anymore.
How to win 125,000 chips easier than you ever have. Just betting the flop was all James had to do there.
Well, Dan just trying to see a cheap flop from the button. I suggest you raise it from the button if you're ever going to play, especially when you're first in.
Is it over Thanksgiving?
Vic folds. We're now over to Randy.
Randy with Queen 9 of diamonds. Been playing pretty tight at this final table so far. He's going to open his game up a little bit here. Raises it up to 50,000. Dan's going to lay it down. On to James Carroll on the button. He folds.
Right, and then all places they choose Florence, Indiana.
And now to Trevor with pocket kings. Trevor's got 3 dogs he says he's playing for at the final table. He said you have no idea how expensive it is to feed 3 large dogs.
Well, Trevor, not sure what he's going to do.
Well, let me answer this for you. He's going to raise. I know that. But what the dollar amount is $122,000 is the raise.
And now action over to Mike.
Once in a while. Once they give me good hands.
Mike with gap connectors. He is going to fold.
550 1, 2, 3, 4.
So now back to Randy.
Randy with a suited queen, facing a 72,000 chip raise. And he is going to lay it down. And Trevor's going to win the hand pre-flop with his wired kings. I'm sure you would have liked to have seen a little bit of action, but anytime you're scooping chips, it's a good thing.
All right, blinds are moving up. We're at 15 and 30,000 with a 3K Annie, and Vic is going to be first.
Yeah, his move my chair.
Vic also playing in his very first HPT event.
Peels back King Jack offsuit.
Money won here today goes directly back into the poker bankroll.
63.
He's going to make it 63,000 with King Jack. Over to Randy with 9 Jack in spades. And Randy wants to see a flop. He's going to call the extra 63,000. Dan folds over to James Carroll on the button. He's going to make the call with 8-9 of diamonds.
Great hand to have in a multi-way pot on the button.
Trevor lays down his small blind, and now the big blind of Michael with ace deuce of clubs. And if there's 3 in the pot, there might as well be 4 with a suited ace. Pre-flop here, we're almost at 300,000 in chips in the middle. This could be a big swing pot for one of these guys.
She suggested. I'm going to claim it was me.
And here we go. The flop is 3 queen deuce. It's all diamonds. Great flop for James Carroll.
James hits the flush, and Michael's also flopped bottom pair. He checks over to Vic. Vic with just king high. And Randy's going to take a stab at this pot. He's going to fire 130,000.
I love it when the worst hand of 4 is betting on a flop that they totally whiffed.
So like you.
130,000 was Randy's bet. James makes the call with his flush. Back to Michael. He will fold. And now Vic is going to fold, so we're heads up with Randy and James. James is on the button. Here comes the turn. It's a 5. Randy's turn to act.
And Randy looks like he is committing to this bluff. He is going to fire a second bullet. This time it's 225,000. And this is just unfortunate timing for Randy betting into the flush. Question now is James going to pounce on the turn, or is he just going to flat again? And the answer has been made. He's just going to flat.
Randy, I've been there, man. You start telling a beautiful girl all kinds of things, and next thing you know, you sooner or later just have this huge story that's developed, and you forgot where the lie ends and the truth begins. Randy's trying to make James believe that he has the best hand. It just is not working. And the river is a 4. Does Randy have another lie in him?
He does. He has bet all in. It'll be all in for James to call.
I can fold this.
James' tournament life would be on the line. Of course, he's way ahead. Randy's betting with nothing.
I call.
He does make the call, and he's going to love what he sees here. The flush is more than good.
See, that's the problem. You tell the beautiful girl you live in a $2 million mansion and drive a Porsche, when really you rent and have a Yugo.
Just like that. Randy doubles him up.
More poker from the Palms when we come back. Welcome back to the HPT from the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. It's time to get your game back on track with our pro tip of the week. Tonight, Phil Hellmuth describes how to play the short stack.
Now you're the short stack, man. You have between 8 and 16 big blinds. You're a little short and you know it. You need a little patience. Yeah. I think the patience is really important in those spots because, you know, if you can somehow have the best hand in that spot, it's just beautiful, you know. And maybe you have to ante off 2 or 3 big blinds. Maybe you have 13 and you have to go down to 10 before you play a hand. Now the kids will tell you, and the math shows, that when you have a short stack, you should just bet it all. 8 to 16 big blinds, bet it all. You have ace 10 of clubs, bet it all. King 10, king jack, first one in the pot, bet it all. Try to pick up the antes and blinds. I don't agree with that philosophy 100%. I understand I would teach you to do that, but as you advance and progress as a player, and you have 16 big blinds, I'd like to see you come in for 2 or 3 big blinds, and then make a decision after that. The power of putting it all in is someone with ace 9 or 7s now has to call it all. There is a line, maybe 8 big blinds, where you just have to bet all of it. But, you know, pick a philosophy and stick with it.
Time to get back to the final table after a little knowledge dropped on you there by Mr. Hellmuth. Look at this. We've got ourselves a battle. James and Michael now have chip stacks that are noticeably larger than everybody else.
And Randy, look at that. The swing going down over $1 million in chips. He is just now down to 12 big blinds as we continue at 15 and 30 with a 3K ante. Randy first to act. He folds. So does Dan. Now we're over to James Carroll. He lays it down. We're on the button.
30-60, buddy.
Come on, Trevor, do something.
Make it 66. 66.
Thanks. Trevor raises with queen deuce off.
So you made it?
And now over to Mike in the 5 seed. He's got a pretty good hand here. Ace 10 offsuit.
Mike, originally from Maryland, now living in Pennsylvania.
Oh well. Guess you also have to punish me.
His weekend in Vegas treating him all right. He's got ace 10 in the small blind. This is tough holding and a tough spot to have it. You got to raise on the button. You're in the small blind, so you're going to be out of position the rest of the hand.
But you know what you have to do here pre-flop.
Actually, I don't. What do you have to do pre-flop?
You got to raise.
Yeah,
Let's take
I guess
this
you
pot
do.
Right now.
I guess you do, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He makes it 160,000.
Last thing you'd want to do is just flat there to see a flop. I agree with Michael's play. Raising it up to 160,000. Over to Vic. Uh-oh. Michael, you should have never raised. I just said you should have just folded.
Well, I still like the raise because ace-jack shrinks up real quick when you got a raise and a re-raise behind you, and that ace-jack is in the muck.
Like I said, nice play, Michael. Way to raise it up with ace-10.
And now, Michael in a pretty good spot here because Trevor was just making a play on the button, like a lot of good players will do.
Now, Trevor's probably thinking, wait a second, is Michael just making a play out of the small blind, which good players do?
Well, Trevor is now 4-bet this pre-flop to 285,000. It's another 125,000 for Mike to call.
You know, Fred, there is only one way in poker to truly find out where you're at.
No, there's more ways. You just believe there's only one way to find out where you're at. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to go all in here.
It involves putting both of my hands on all of the round units in front of me and shoving them into the middle.
Well, it doesn't look like Michael wants to lay it down. He's getting the call and chips ready, and there they go. So over 600,000 in this pot pre-flop as the button and the small blind are locked horns here. Michael's got the best hand, but Trevor is taking the lead in betting.
Looking at their body language, it looks like neither of these players looks all that comfortable. Here comes the flop. It's 4-3-5.
All in.
Well, Michael goes all in with a gut shot straight draw. Trevor has an open-ended straight draw. And this is a fine play here by Michael. It's got to be tough for him to make the call, and he can't do it.
There are very few hands that Trevor's going to call off his tournament life with on a 4-3-5 rainbow board. And odds are Trevor's not going to have one of those, so Michael scoops another pot. The chip leader continues to accumulate here at our final table.
He is playing well, no doubt about it. Blinds continuing on at 15 and 30,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
Dan's going to be first to act.
People who need
And we see aces yet again at our final table.
Well, we've seen kings twice. Now we've seen aces twice. Dan makes it 78,000 to go. And here's a hand that could be in a lot of trouble against aces. Trevor peels back king, queen offsuit.
Nice, actually. That's very nice.
It's a great job.
And he chooses wisely, lays it down. Over to the chip leader.
Mike's got 8-5 on this hand. He will muck. And now to Vic in the small blind with pocket jacks.
Oh, dear. It's like you see the train coming down the tracks. The bridge is out, but we can't tell the conductor.
Choo-choo, my friend, choo-choo.
Two big wired pairs going at it.
And here comes the flop. It's Jack 4 deuce. I don't think we saw that coming with this train.
Vic hits lightning in a bottle and flops the jack for a set against pocket aces. This could be a lot of trouble for Dan. And just like that, Chris, Dan raises, Vic goes all in, Dan snap calls.
It's exactly what we thought was going to happen, but in reverse. That Vic with his pocket jack set up on the flop. They got all the chips in the middle. And Dan's going to see that now he is the one who's drawing thin on the turn and river.
Hoping for one of the last two aces in the deck.
Come on, the man's wearing a dog playing poker shirt. One time. One time. The turn. It is a 5.
Well, that picks up some outs for Dan. Now a 3 will fill in a straight, or an ace will give him a bigger set.
He's wearing a shirt with dogs playing poker. He's wearing a hat with dogs playing poker. Dealer, one time. The river is a 6. And Vic is going to double up and put Dan Allspot in a real hurt locker.
Boy, Dan started this final table among the leaders, and now his chip stack is more felt than anything else.
Wow.
He's going to need to bounce back quick.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. He's Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansel. Let's get back to our final table. Players always have a great time on the HPT, and Fred, when you take HPT plus Vegas, yeah, that is going to equal automatic good pen.
That's taking it to 11, my friend. The short stack now is Dan, and as we can see, it's all Mike right now, sitting with over 80 big blinds in the stack as we continue at 15 and 30,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
And we're back to the action here as Trevor folds now over to Mike with deuces.
Michael first to open in this pot, so I expect him to raise it.
Michael has career winnings of $85,000 over his entire lifetime. He's playing for more than that here tonight on the HBT.
He does raise it, makes it 65,000 to go. His 85,000 in career winnings is about $84,452 more than mine.
I'm all in.
And here we go. Dan is going to put them all in with a suited ace, and why not?
And Michael calls with his pocket deuces, so now Dan's tournament life is on the line. One hand removed from having his aces cracked. Dan's now going to have to come from behind to win this hand if he wants to stay alive at our final table.
Dan with 2 live cards and suited cards. Going to the flop with a lot of outs.
Oh, that's real nice.
So let's see the flop. Michael is in position to eliminate our first player at our final table. And the flop is 8, king, 7, but for Dan, more importantly, 2 hearts.
Dan has a lot of outs now. A 6, an ace, or any heart. You can see statistically he's the favorite in this hand, even though Mike has the best of it right now.
And the turn is a 6, and so now Dan has pulled ahead. Michael needs one of the last 2 deuces to eliminate Dan. The river is a 4, and sit back down. Dan, you got more poker to be played here at our final table.
Dan's going to double up to about 350,000. That'll give him a few more blinds anyway. Line's still at 15 and 30,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
Trevor's going to be first to act in this next hand here. Sixth place paying just over 20,000 at our final table here tonight. Action's on Mike with deuce 3.
I think they had to really finagle
He
it to
folds.
get the prize pool over the first place over 100,000.
King Queen for Vic.
Don't pay out a couple last spots.
I would do it, but they also promised 10%.
Vic's going to bet some of his newly acquired chips. 66,000 is the raise out of Randy, and he looks down at pocket sixes.
I'm all in.
And Randy's going to make the big bet, puts them all in the middle. Dan folds, James Carroll folds, back to Vic with mom and dad. And he is going to make the call, and Vic's going to like what he sees here. He's behind but has 2 live cards.
He had some of your outs.
He's racing.
And here we go with the flop. It is 5-10 queen, but 3 hearts come on that flop.
Yeah, Vic hits top pair, but Randy picks up a flush draw.
So a 6 or a heart will keep Randy around. The turn is a 3 of spades.
12 outs is what Vic needs to fade to eliminate Randy from this final table. Otherwise, he's going to double him up.
The river is an ace of hearts. And look at that, 2 players on the ropes, 2 players coming back for more poker.
310, right?
I'll double check one of these for you.
Don't look here anymore.
Because we continue at 15 and 30,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
Which reminds me, you got any Advil?
No, I used it all.
Oof.
Vegas is just one constant hangover, isn't it?
Oh, man.
And look at this, Dan all in with King 4.
Trevor with King Jack. These are the 2 short stacks at the final table.
Tough call for Trevor to make here. If he can make the call, he'd be way ahead in this hand.
Trevor's going to fold. And now to Mike. And Mike looks down at Ace Jack out of the big blind. He's definitely going to be calling. But he is asking for an inventory just exactly to see what the damages would be.
Yeah, when you pull the iPod buds out of the ear, you're taking the hand pretty seriously.
288.
That's what my mama told me.
Mom was a big iPod listening to poker player, was she?
288 is the final count on Dan's stack. And it's a quick call from Mike.
So it's King 4 of diamonds versus Ace Jack. And Ace Jack is going to be ahead, but Dan has been able to pull a rabbit out of a hat and pull a dog off of his shirt and stay alive. Come on, dealer. One time again. The flop is 6-9 ace. Oh, it gets really difficult for Dan now.
It is drawing. Dan is drawing thin. Michael's paired the ace. Dan's going to be hoping for running diamonds or running King 4.
For the love of garments with dogs on it, please give him some help, dealer. The turn is a 9, and that's going to do it. Dan has been eliminated from our final table and will be the first one to leave on the HPT tonight.
Dan started as one of the chip leaders. This has got to be disappointing to him. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I feel kind of sick when you get knocked out. 2 aces cracked, and that's the end of it. You know, I had some hands at the beginning, and they all got beat, and then with the money I won, I'll put in the bank.
1 player eliminated means more oxygen for everybody else here at the final table as we're now 5-handed on our battle for just over $100,000 on the HPT.
It's probably way up there in like the 600s, so, you know, like right next to
Trevor's first, he folds, and now to Mike.
That's how bad I was.
Mike has been running good and playing well. Tough combination to beat, and now he's peeled back another suited ace from the cutoff. This time he's going to pass and fold. Action now on Vic. Vic might be one of the smartest people I've ever met at an HPT final table. He's a numbers kid, and he knows them backwards and forwards.
No offense. Okay, maybe just a little, but I have seen chairs that have been smarter than you at our final table, Fred.
Boy, yeah, that's no lie.
At least chairs serve a purpose. All right, Randy's all in with ace-8. I kid because I care.
610, 638.
638 total. The all-in is
Action now on James Carroll with ace-10. Wow, this could have a lot of fireworks in it. Vic is lurking in the wings with ace-jack.
Wow, and now James is going to re-raise to 834,000.
Little isolation bet here from James Carroll.
And ace-jack is going to get out of the way. James says, wow, I dodged a bullet there. And look at this, I'm in great position against Randy.
It's a good raise by James Carroll in that spot. He isolates to just one opponent, and he has him crushed. And it's Randy who's going to be hoping to find an 8 on this flop to stay alive.
And here we go. Flop is 9-4 queen.
Not what Randy was hoping for.
And the turn is a 10. That gives James a pair of 10s, which kills Randy's 8.
But Randy did pick up a gut shot straight draw. He'll be hoping to find a jack on this river.
It is a deuce. 2 hands, 2 eliminations. And this time it is Randy Orl who is going to be eliminated from our final table.
Randy, definitely one of the bright young stars in this game. We'll be seeing a lot of him in the poker headlines from years to come. Right now, he's going to tell us about how he thinks this final table is playing.
I don't feel that great. I busted out, but, you know, it is what it is. Honestly, I'm not sure if the biggest pot I lost was a good play or a terrible play.
More poker from the Palms when we come back. Thanks for coming back to the HPT. Let's get back to the action at our final table, where James and Michael have a majority of the chips that are in play. Fred, they've both got around 3 million chips in play. Trevor and Vic together don't even have 1 million chips.
It is definitely a case of the haves and have-nots right now as we continue four-handed at this final table. Blinds continuing at 15 and 30,000 with a 3,000 chip ante.
66 again.
Well, Big is going to raise it up this time to 66,000 with ace-9. Goes all the way around to Trevor. He's going to fold, and now Michael's the only hope for some action in this hand. He's got 7-4. 8-4 worked against Vic earlier at this final table. Can't see a reason why 7-4 wouldn't work. Michael likes to defend. He is going to see a flop.
And here's the flop. It's 8-7-3.
Well, once again, Michael has outflopped Vic. He pairs the 7 for second pair. He's going to check over to Vic, who's just got ace high. He checks.
Vic with a very odd way to cover up his mouth to hide the facial expressions while he's involved in a hand. Although a very good procedure for a lot of players. If you feel like you've got something that you might be giving up, go ahead, give it a try. Anything you can conceal is a great idea.
Well, that 10 on the turn gave Vic an open-ended straight draw, but Michael still has the best hand, and he's going to take those pocket 7s out for a stroll. Makes it 65,000 to go.
That bet is probably one street too late because Vic is now interested in this hand again, and the river is a king. Michael's first to act.
Michael has the best of it, but he is stepping cautiously. He checks, Vic checks behind, and Michael is going to scoop a small but meaningful pot here of almost 300,000 in chips.
Let's skip the double ups, just go right to the triple up.
And Trevor's going to be first to act. He is one of the have-nots at our final table. He is the short stack. And it looks like he's ready to get involved here, but no, he will fold. Now over to Mike. On the button with ace-7 offsuit. He is one of the haves at this final table. Freddie won one of the first hands and hasn't looked back since.
A four-handed game on the button with an ace in your hand.
Let's do this.
Smells like raising.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little of this, and a raise up to 73,000. Over to Vic Gupta.
No relation to Sanjay from CNN.
How do you know that?
I'm just assuming.
And James makes the call out of the big blind. So Michael and James, the two halves, if you would, at this final table, the two big stacks will battle it out in this hand. And here comes the flop. It's ace-4-6.
Once again, Michael gets the best of the flop. He hits top pair. James, trying to sell a story, fires 85,000. And looks like Michael is Gonna raise it up here. Anytime you're ready, Michael. He does raise it up, and James quickly folds, and that's how you make it look so easy. Boy, he is playing well.
Everyone wants to win in Las Vegas, but on the HPT, Fred, there's only going to be one winner. You'll have to come back next time to find out who's going to take down this final table. Now, do you think you've got what it takes to sit at the final table and win the unreal cash? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com to find out about our upcoming events that anyone can play in and win. For James Larson and Fred Bevel, I'm Chris Hansen. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.